We're waiting for Erik and everyone else to join in. That was the short one. I guess Tim's gonna go on the road driving, 11 hours to Ohio? Wow. Okay, let's see. Am I missing something? Oh, here we go. Hey, Jonathan. Man, that's quick. Let's see. Video manager, that's good. That's good. And live stream. Hi, someone. Hey, so when are you guys gonna get in here? You guys are always chatting up a storm. Hi, Cheryl. Shirley? Cheryl? Graham? TBC? Hey, Jeremy. Yeah, we gotta get our fix in with Tim being on the road. We need our whatever Thursdays is. It's not True Thursdays. Is it like Thirsty Thursdays? I got my root beer. Oh, everything gets in my beard. Every time I eat, I have to wash my face. It's pretty bad. Okay. Oh, Brand's just there to chat. Has to be up early in the morning to work. Nature. Gosh, everyone's not ready, I guess. Right. Man, there's a lot to talk about. And I'm behind. I'm behind on the news. That's kind of, it would be nice to get updates because I know a lot of you guys keep up. I can't keep up these days. I want to. Corbin is in the lead. Is that live right now, the voting? Hey Pat, hey Jared. All right. We got someone, Dominic. How's it going, Dominic?
Hello, Ivan.
All right, I'm not alone. That's good.
Pretty good.
Are they streaming the election in the UK?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't been watching it.
Bram says Corbin was in the lead, but that was about 2 hours ago. I guess I could just do a news search. Comey, nope. Don't want to watch that. How about
Did you see the same Progressives video on Jimmy Dore's?
yeah, I think I only caught half of it.
That was a good one.
Yeah, I think I only caught the second half of it. It's my schedule is crazy because the baby and in-laws and things get hectic. But I did get some time to fish today, which is great.
That was good. Catch anything?
I caught a skate and two small striped bass. That was it. I heard skates are good, the wings, but I threw them all back. Aren't skates like a flounder, a type of I don't know. Sergeant Hayes, you miss fishing, just keep fishing.
Yeah, I don't know too much about it. I'm not too much of a fisherman.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they don't have anything. You would think BBC might have something live, right?
Oh, I think so.
Oh, it's Array. Okay. I thought it was a part of the flounder family. Maybe they all are. Hey, Broken Carpenter.
All right, I should be on. You got audio?
I hear you.
Hi, Carpenter.
Okay. Oh, oh, oh.
Okay, skate.
Uh-oh. All right. Is this it? All right. Gotta move my whole giggy here. All right.
Hey, Mary.
I heard you talking. I've heard that skate wings are very good too.
You've never
And
tried them though?
that base scallops are oftentimes punched out of skate wings.
Oh.
I mean, that's what I've heard, but I'm not, as far as fishing goes, if it comes out of the ocean, I got to ask somebody.
Yeah, a friend of mine said it's like $2 to $3 per pound at the Asian market for skate wings. So I guess it's got to taste pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I knew that the Asians knew a way to prepare it. I always wanted to learn how to do it in case I had ever caught. I used to go down when we lived on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
We used to go down to Aztec Island, and we'd let some air out of the tires, and you got like a yearly permit. You could drive out on the beach and surf fish at night. All night, as long as you were actively fishing, you could be on the beach.
That's pretty cool.
Actively fishing is asleep in my chair with a beer in my hand and a fishing pole sitting there. That was active, and my bait sitting, down just like, 100 yards down the beach, washed up on the shore.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. I mean, but it was a groovy place. The wild ponies were there and stuff, the wild horses. And but I always wondered because I got a skate there one time, just threw it back, because I didn't know what to do with it. But
it's okay.
That skate. I just looked up a picture of it.
Yeah. Well, you gotta stay away from the tail. That's kind of all I know. And I did. Yeah, I think it's in the family of stingrays, not flounder or anything. So, if they get you with the tail, that could hurt.
My mom she used to scuff her feet on the beach. We used to go looking for shells on Daytona Beach.
Mm-hmm.
And when we took vacations there, and my mom would scuff her feet. And one time we were walking, and she scuffed her feet, and skater stingray tail, just the bones. So it was it was probably like, I don't know, 4-inch section and it's got like hooks on it. It's really nasty looking thing.
Yeah.
And but that gets stuck in the bottom of her foot, man. So getting it out with all the little hook parts. Ouch. But you can see how it would work. You can see how it would work catching fish. It would make like a really great spearhead,
Yep, I hear maybe it's in the Philippines or somewhere that they get like the skate tails or the stinger part, and they make like a whip out of it. Maybe it's something else. But yeah, that'd be kind of, maybe not a whip. I don't know. I don't know where I heard. I don't know where I heard some things. When you talk to a lot of people, they just kind of tell you stuff. You don't know if they're just bullshitting you or not.
Well, yeah, and it's like I'm really good at Trivial Pursuit because I can pull a lot of little things out of my head, but the depth sometimes definitely isn't there. Yeah.
Let's see.
So did anybody watch the Comey hearing?
No, I skipped it. I don't like any of the hearings because they always don't really say anything worthwhile. But did you? Did anyone?
Yeah, I actually did, and I've watched a lot of hearings, man, on C-SPAN. I've never heard anybody in DC used the word lie. That was a pretty radical statement, and to come from, there's plenty of drama amongst the DC crowd as far as how they look at Comey and how they look at Trump. But Comey was pretty damning today. I mean, it was a pretty damning. I mean, it's all that kind of stuff that everybody that has a legal mind can sit around and argue about. But it's pretty damning from the perspective of just regular citizens that aren't even necessarily on one side or the other. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And if they just heard what he said, that was pretty damning testimony.
Damning to who?
I just caught excerpts.
To Trump.
Oh.
To Trump. I mean, it was one thing about Comey. This is something Comey's done once or twice in his life. He's been in front of Congress a lot of times, and he knows how to speak and how to answer questions. And he was pretty direct and and I would say, it was, like I say, the legal line is another question altogether, but the sort of the moral, how people look at it, like 99% of what we consider bribery, DC doesn't consider bribery. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing. I mean, it's his description of his interactions. It sounds so much like when I lived in Philly. There's a way. People got juice. There's a way people speak about power, and especially sort of how sort of the mafia types, the sort of people sort of on the edges of that sort of lifestyle would speak about things that were happening. And Trump talking to Comey sure sounds like one of those mob bosses, sort of like, just sort of hinting towards stuff, I never told him to kill the guy, the kind of thing. So
the excerpts I saw, what I saw, it didn't really look like when they asked him the direct questions, like, was there an investigation? He said no. Did Trump tell you to back off the what's his name? He said no.
Yeah, the Flynn investigation.
Well, actually, he did say he prefaced it with the argument of I would say he said that his take on the layoff Comey kind of thing, or whatever the quote was his feeling was it was like an order kind of thing. But yeah, as far as that goes, the thing about the him saying there wasn't an open, that was at that moment. I mean, there was a lot of he is going to get in trouble. Comey's going to get in trouble because he wasn't, his whole rap wasn't perfection. He had a lot of failures of his own inside of his story. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was far from perfect within his own story. And so that was sort of problematic from the standpoint of looking at him and looking at Trump. But I mean, when you compare the two and ask who has a chance of being more truthful, I've got to fall more towards Comey only because there's a track record. But I would say the other big thing was the question about what's her name, Lynch, telling him to refer to the investigation of Clinton as a I can't even remember. It was some a matter, right? Yes, a matter. That one seemed like a real that one seemed like a real shady deal, and expect to hear more about that in the future, because that's one that was a sort of a seed planted, I think, from the Republicans, which would be a good thing for us, actually, because it's the power structure that everybody that's on the left is sort of fighting against within the Democratic Party, you know.
Was there anyone in particular asking the questions?
I saw some of the hearing, and there wasn't any that particularly stuck out to me.
Okay.
My father thought Burr was pretty straight laced, but I can tell you the ones that the one I think everybody agrees was the most out of left field, and that was John McCain's inquiry section. Where he basically spent his entire 5-minute section trying to pin Comey on the difference between the Russia investigation and the Hillary Clinton investigation. And it just turned into a giant fucking cat and mouse game of Comey having to repeat over and over that the Clinton investigation was already completed, while the Trump's was still ongoing. Or different variations of that same thing over and over again.
And I thought he did a fairly good job on part of that, because he'd said that he had gone through the Hillary thing, and as far as like saying that saying something was closed or somebody wasn't being investigated, and then he had to turn around and say they were being investigated, and they were at the very beginning of an investigation, and that was sort of problematic for him, you know. But I think what the hell was I gonna go ahead? I gotta think of what it was. That is his. He did do a sort of shady smart thing, and that was, besides memorializing everything on paper, he when Trump started calling him and the FBI liars and whatever, you know, saying that whatever he was saying, and so he leaked his own memo. He leaked his own memo to the press. But what he did was he didn't mark it classified, and he shared it amongst all the people that were in his leadership team to make sure that it wasn't like his word that he wrote this at a certain point. He wrote it and then showed it to everybody in time at the time. So that does weigh towards his side of a story, you know. But you know, who knows how? Like I say, these things, it's all sort of like story time for the mainstream media, you know. I mean, they just sort of will take whatever they want and sort of make whatever story they want out of anything. So,
well, this is definitely not what they were looking for.
It was you know, it was a strange hearing overall, in that there was a lot of that. The John McCain was off the wall. I mean, he's really sort of. There was a time when
the worst part about the whole. Oh, go ahead.
He's just at a time in his life where you really just got to go back to Arizona and enjoy his money, man, because that cat, you know, whatever, he's Arizona's problem, I guess, but he isn't he isn't impressing anybody anymore.
Yeah. I was gonna say, you know, like the sad part is that maybe if, you know, John McCain had his faculties together, he could have actually gone his line of questioning and did something intelligent with it. Because look, I don't think that the idea of trying to equivocate the Trump investigation with the Hillary Clinton investigation is a good thing. I honestly don't. But at least from a political standpoint, you could have made it a lot more solid, airtight case out of it if you brought up certain details, like how you say that the investigation was closed on July, but you reopened it in literally right before the election, before closing it right before voting day. Why? How is it that we can be certain that your testimony regarding the procedure of the Trump administration's investigation into the Trump administration's dealings with Russia are in any way as definitive as you claim them to be? I mean, you could have gone that route.
Yeah, well, I thought there was a lot of McCarthyite screaming about Russia during this hearing, from both sides.
Yeah.
Because they all love that. That's all a popular, that 9/11. You can, I just think of that Family Guy thing where she's up on the stage and she keeps on saying 9/11 and the crowd goes wild. It's the same thing with this whole Russia thing. They say Russia and the crowd, there's a portion of the crowd goes wild, and it's idiotic. I did think it was pretty interesting to see old Marco Rubio seeming to do damage control for Trump. I mean, in a position where Marco Rubio could have, laid back a little bit. Marco Rubio was more defensive of Trump. I was quite surprised by that, just because I thought, on a personal level, I thought for sure he would screw with them,
And especially, with Trump, fucking beating him, especially when it came to the election time.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. It was sort of it was really it was funny because it was so sort of dog with his tail between his legs sort of thing, but with a tough guy attitude. You know what I mean? Like he always has his tough guy attitude when he's in these hearings, and but it came off as sort of like, oh, I have to lick my boss's boots here, so you're going to get questioned. It was a toady move. So what do we know about the election in Britain? Do we have a number right now of what we know?
115 Conservatives, 132 Labor.
Right on.
Let's see, how do I make the transition? Okay, there we go. You guys can see it on the YouTube stream now. On the top right. I'll go ahead and update it every once in a while. So there we go.
I want Teresa to win.
I wasn't even going to do this tonight, and then it was like suddenly you were sitting there all alone for a few minutes. I thought, so I got set up quick.
That's never gonna end well.
Well, Erik
I didn't even get my TV set up. Watch, you guys.
You know what's great is any election we could do this and have the live election feed on so we can see it and we could all talk about it. So you don't have to have multiple windows.
Lampoon who's gonna lose. Like if it's Hillary 2020, like up the third time, we just lost once again.
Oh God, don't even say that jokingly.
I don't know about at all, though.
I don't think it's happening, but who knows with her? And my blood pressure couldn't take that, man.
Oh no! Sorry, this thing is wrong. Okay, how about? Oh, that sucked. Hold on. Technical difficulties. Let me resize that. Here you go. Sometimes things don't work out right. All right, that should be better. So every time I refresh, it'll. Oh, it's refreshing by itself. That's awesome.
Nice.
That is a groove.
All right. So what are your thoughts? Has anyone been following Corbyn and why am I forgetting her name?
Theresa May.
Yeah,
I
Theresa
know
May.
the classic liberals are calling him a Nazi.
Oh,
Really?
Jesus.
What are they calling Theresa May then?
Huh?
What are they calling
Oh,
Theresa May?
Not a Nazi.
Oh.
I call her a crazy bitch.
Theresa May reminds me too much of Thatcher, man. There's just some sort of, that old British sort of attitude and look about her that just, I obviously fall more towards, I fall more towards, what's his name, but May, she's just like, sort of creepy in that way.
Jeremy Corbyn is taking it.
Oh, good.
143.
148 to 133. Oh man, the Blairites are going to be pissed if this actually works.
Oh, 130
I
to
hope to see them
146.
triggered.
Oh, the Blairites are going to be so triggered.
Obama's
Holy shit.
campaign manager.
The liberal Democrats are just wrecked.
Obama's campaign manager went over there to work for May.
Really?
Yeah, one of his campaign managers. I can't remember who it was, but yeah, they, but that shows you what sort of circles we're talking about. I really have my doubts that Hillary Clinton was a big Corbyn backer.
This is so sad. Like, even the Scottish National Party is doing better than the Liberal Democrats right now. That's the Democratic Unionist Party. This is like the Liberal Democrats, like the leading third party of Britain. One of the two that make up that used to make up the coalition government, can't even get seats above the Scottish Nationalist and the Democratic Unionist Party. They're losing to Socialists and Scottish Nationalists.
Yeah.
God, that's depressing.
Obama's campaign guy going over there is so hypocritical. They're talking about Russia interfering in our elections. They're over there stomping around for a candidate in the British elections. Where's that their business?
We kind of picture ourselves like what was I can't remember. It's not Pax Romana. It's being able, the idea that a Roman could go anywhere and never have to worry, kind of thing. That's like what the United States thinks. We can just do anything to anybody, but any little thing happens here, and it's a big deal. I would say one of the things about that hearing today that was also of interest is the amount of stuff that was sort of hinted at but needed to be done behind closed doors. And in that way, I think there's another problem with the whole Trump is going to get impeached thing, and that is the intelligence people. They never want to give, even if it was a president, committing a crime. They don't want to give up anything, even if we all know about it. They act like it doesn't exist, so that's going to be a huge problem for the Democrats trying to frame Trump as, being impeachable. Because I think he's not, without some more stuff, he's not impeachable at this point.
I think the whole
arguable. What's that?
I think the whole deep state wants him out. You know, he's, you know, I'm not a Trump fan. I really don't like what he's doing, but they don't like him even more, I think, because they can't control him.
Yeah, well, I'm agreeing in total agreement, Brian. I mean, it was like it is. I can hold two opinions at the same time. I can have very low opinions of Trump, yet still think that we got a real problem, because what happens when it's a guy that we actually like and does good things,
Right.
and the deep state decides they don't like him? You know, it ain't just Trump. You know, everybody's got to remember that kind of stuff. You know, you can't play these games and not have these games come back and bite us. And, you know, in as much as the deep state probably always has their hands in shit, I especially am not crazy about the way they're doing it now, because it's so out in the open.
Just sipping on that coffee.
If they did impeach him, then you get Pence. That'd be worse.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is I'm no big, I am a gigantic, like, not in favor of having Pence as my president.
Oh hell
You know,
no.
I'll live with 2-3 more years of you know, the blundering Trumpisms, and, you know, we'll just ask the world to forgive us at the end, you know, like we always do.
No, you don't understand. You guys would have been in an even worse spot if we had let Pence take it.
Yeah, actually.
We were actually doing you guys a favor by keeping Trump.
Resist Trump, impeach Trump. It's not gonna fucking happen.
I don't think so.
That's not how power works, kid. That's not how power works.
Well, and remember too that once it comes down to it, they're real hesitant to use the kind of power that they can have to do some things, because they do know that power can come back to bite them. You know, it's like this crap in the Senate with the 60 vote threshold and stuff. You know, it's not in the Constitution. It's just a rule. And, you know, I mean, whether it's a good rule or a bad rule, it's a rule, and it can be changed. And, you know, the fact that the Democrats sat around and whined about the Republicans rather than just changing things, you know, and saying, screw it, we're going to have these things. But they didn't want to do that. They wanted that out. You know, there's always, Nancy Pelosi's really good at exact vote counting and making sure her people can vote against things all the time. You know, that was what she is good at that sort of thing, but she's never vote counting and deal making to make something better for us. You know what I mean? It's always sort of cutting back on how good something is to placate you know, the likes of like a McCaskill, or, you know, not necessarily, but someone like her. So,
You know, to go back to Theresa May, did you see her solution for the terrorism in English? She wants to limit the internet and monitor the internet, censor people so they can't get on the internet. That's her solution to the terrorism problem.
And now it's coming back to bite her in the ass, because now she's getting her ass kicked by Jeremy fucking Corbyn.
Exactly. Censorship will kick anyone in the ass. And people don't like censorship. I say fuck censorship.
I think it's less that people hate. It's less the censorship bit, and the fact that people hate fucking poor all the time.
Yeah, but my opinion on censorship, I oppose censorship of any kind. I mean, if people don't want to say anything profound, they don't have to. It's everyone's right to free speech. I oppose censorship of any kind.
Well, the UK has some the UK already has some pretty nasty anti-terrorism laws, that we would fight tooth and nail. I'm not saying we couldn't have them here. I mean, I won't say nothing can't happen here, but they've got some pretty draconian crap, and the idea that she could push it even farther with lack of results. That's the thing about that. It's sort of, if you're going to go for results driven sort of policing, which is what this is. I mean, that's why this whole idea of calling things terrorism, first off, it's a hard thing to define. And second off, it's better to call these people what they are. They're just freaking criminals, just thugs, and just call them that, rather than sort of elevating them by calling them something, making them players. I mean, find them, arrest them, prosecute them. And, if you want to add something into the law about, something that everybody can sort of understand, because terrorism, when they speak of eco-terrorism, and, eco-terrorism can be standing in front of a bulldozer, I think we've got a pretty wide idea of what terrorism is. So, I mean, it's anyhow, that's a problematic thing. But England definitely has some pretty stringent anti-terrorism laws already, and the idea that they would put up with even more isn't. I mean, British people aren't any crazier about that. They're the laws they have in place as we are ours. So anyhow.
Trying to think of what to say.
Well, I put.
Huh?
Well, when do their polls close over there in Britain?
I have no idea.
I think they closed a while ago.
Oh, they did close?
Yeah, they're tallying right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably like early AM there. It's like 2 or 3 AM, maybe.
Wow.
Maybe. I'm trying to think here. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, we are securing the House of Commons tonight. Ooh, it's a good day to be on the left. Yeah, we're 13 points ahead of the Tories. Oh, this is. Oh no. Oh, this is so unfortunate.
Why?
No, it's just like. Oh God, poor UKIP. UKIP just is like fucking tanked.
It's 3:28 a.m. in London.
Huh?
3:28 a.m. in London.
Wow.
Yeah, it's getting to the point where they're getting pretty close to calling it. It sounds like. But holy fuck, I think Corbyn's gonna actually pull it.
Upset.
Corbyn's actually going to be the next prime minister.
But won't that be interesting? Him on one side and Trump on the other side. I think that's gonna make for some interesting relations with Great Britain.
They're a bunch of loonies. They're a bunch of socialists. They're not nice people.
Well, I mean, think about it. They don't, I don't know. I just think it's going to make for some interesting. It should make for some interesting back and forth. Let's put it that way.
Good
No,
point.
I think Corbyn's a huge sign that the Labour that the labor movement might be having a resurgence in the political sphere. Whether or not, as a lip sock, I have to admit that I'm still a little bit skeptical as to how much he's going to be able to get done before he eventually capitulates to the neoliberal machine. But that said, this is a good sign. This is a very good sign.
Okay,
and that should not be diminished.
Okay, do you want this? Do you want this?
I'd be interested to see how much you can get done too, because I think, there's enough people on its own side that are going to be fighting against him, much like us. So, I mean, that will be interesting to see.
Okay, so I have that thing updating every 30 seconds on its own, so you don't have to refresh every time. You can just click there, and every 30 seconds it's updated. What did I miss? I'm sorry.
He's still 10 points up.
Yeah.
This is insane. This is actually... I didn't think Jeremy Corbyn was going to pull it. I'll be honest.
So
I didn't think he was going to pull it.
So if Theresa May loses, who's she going to blame? Is she going to blame it on Russia?
She'll probably blame it on Trump or something.
You
She'll
fucked it up for the rest of us racists. You fucked it up for the rest of us white nationalist folk.
She'll blame it on Bernie.
Oh, there we go.
Goddamn Bernie. Yeah, fuck you, Bernie, and especially fuck you, Larry.
She'll probably blame it on her opponent. It's like, it's his fault. He won because he's a man. I like making fun of Theresa May. She's crazy. Honestly, she's crazy. From what I've seen, she
be cray-cray.
Oh, she is crazy.
Right on.
I'm surprised that people even voted for her. It's like, she's like another version of Hillary Clinton that no one wants to fucking like anyway.
Bruin says Susan Sarandon.
Let's get a divider, so you're looking at me, huh?
I would never blame Susan Sarandon. She's amazing.
That's okay.
I'm sure she did a movie with a British accent at some point.
But oh god damn, this.
Hey, Stevie.
It's still going.
13 points. We should have like shots of whiskey. Anytime one.
Shit, I want to get some hard alcohol right now to celebrate.
I don't even drink.
First time for everything, Eric.
Well, I only had one beer one time only, and that was it. And plus, it's hereditary in my family, so no.
Okay.
That's a good choice.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, going the other way is harder.
Holy sh.
And especially being around an alcoholic dad for most of my life, so yeah, personal experience as well.
I get that.
So Tim is asking on his Patreon, asking questions to ask Bernie Sanders and Nina Turner. I haven't thought of any. Anyone have good questions to maybe ask them?
Possibly. I guess the one thing I'd like to ask is what would be the best way for us to organize the sort of neo-labor movement within the United States? What kind of structure might prove beneficial for us? Whether we look to consolidate leaders who might be more favorable to our position, or should we try to pressure the existing leadership to cater to our demands at the risk of greater civil unrest? I think it would be a worthwhile question because, at least within the context of Bernie Sanders started as a civil rights activist, does have experience as a civil rights activist. So I do think that his perspective on it might be, at the very least, interesting.
Bernie kind of lost me. He
there's also the part that he's also a politician now. So the way he looks at the world is probably different than when he was younger.
What happened, Bernie? He won't.
That's okay. It's just
Criticize Israel for genocide. He's going with the white helmets in Syria. He's going with this Russian narrative. I mean, why isn't he talking about the lawsuit? I mean, these are things I think that interest the person, and he's taken his whole movement. People that really pushed them in the wrong direction. That the Democrats co-opted. That was the kind of the theme of Debbie, the Same Progressives video, like Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore trying to draft them. Bernie's really not what he portrayed himself to be in the campaign.
That's why we should focus on like Tulsi Gabbard and Nina Turner.
Yeah, they're the ones. If that they would be my choice.
Big time.
Don't get me wrong.
A lot of it right now is I think Bernie's trying to do a couple different things at the same time. Bernie's trying to, trying to figure out a way to make the Democrats work. Make the Democratic Party work. I think that he could also, he's also sort of playing a game as far as a lot of just the whatever the message of the day with the Democrats is because of sort of, building up some credits towards maybe 2020. And also I think that he's also doing all this so that he can kind of, I think right now it's like I said, he can't start a presidential election right now. Nobody starts it this early except for Trump. And that's only because he wants to be able to keep his, Trump wants to be able to keep his events closed to the public. So he makes some campaign events.
Mm-hmm. And I think they use Bernie for a tool. His popularity and he's giving credibility to their bullshit.
But he's also spending a lot of time arguing for Medicare for all, it's sort of $15. He's arguing for things. He's arguing for the things and going to places and doing speeches and things for the values that he espouses. And, as far as like his foreign policy, I've never been crazy about a lot of Bernie's foreign policy. I always felt like Bernie, the one thing about Bernie, though, was that unlike other presidents, I do believe if we had a serious anti-war movement, an anti-war protest, that Bernie would be more willing than the rest of them to be less militaristic.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that I mean he's never given me he's prescient at times. He's prescient at times, and other times he seems to have blind spots. James,
and I don't trust him anymore, to be honest with you.
Oh, we have a garden gnome in here. Hi.
Hello, everybody. I'm just kind of getting ready.
Oh, far out. Is James here? I can't read the names on the.
All right, I just got everything set up, so I'm ready to go now.
All right, Red.
Oh, we have Snork in here too. Snork. You don't have to be shy.
I think everybody's like me. I think they try to get their mics all figured out and everything else.
Shit. All content, photos, video. Follow my face. What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, I didn't get to watch much of the coverage today. There seems to be so much of it, between Comey and elections and all that. But I caught bits and pieces on there. That McCain part was interesting.
I was up all night and I was like nodding as McCain came up.
Someone's tapping really loud.
That's not me.
Why is that happening?
Oh, did anyone see that hard bastard tweet about Kirk Eichenwald?
No.
I missed it.
I think you guys are going to be in for a good laugh. So hold on, let me look it up.
Kirk Eichenwald is a giant douche anyway.
He is. But we finally got the greatest form of justice.
Oh, he's the American Loose Mensch or whatever her name is. Eichenwald and that match, they deserve to be like do bylines together because they're exactly the sort of I've got a secret agent close source that tells me, and then they'll go on some amazing conspiracy that nobody's talking about and never ends up being right.
There you go.
It's like H.A. Goodman without any sort of brain processing power whatsoever. Because at least H.A. Goodman, whether or not it usually has the decency to back his more outlandish claim with sources and a thorough analysis and explanation. Kirk Eichenwald just throws shit at the wall.
Yeah, exactly. And I was going to say another thing about that hearing today with Comey that was a little interesting was how some of the Republicans weren't, especially the chairman. They weren't real. There were a few of them that didn't seem. They seemed to be asking questions that were more probing of Trump's, what Trump's problems were than of Comey's problems, because they always switch sides. A Democrat asks a certain kind of question, the Republicans ask a certain kind of question. Well, the chairman and like the switch sides, next one or two Republicans on that panel asked some pretty probing questions about Trump, and I don't remember what they were. It was just more of a feeling about how they were asking questions and how it comes off, Trump. And I don't remember what they were.
Can someone mute their YouTube stream?
How they were asking questions and how it comes off.
Can someone mute their YouTube stream?
I don't remember what they were. Can
James, I think your stream is running.
How they were asking questions and how it comes off.
Can someone mute their YouTube stream?
I don't remember what they were. Can
James, I think your James.
How they were asking questions.
Who?
I think your stream is running.
Yeah,
Wait,
it was
is it
James. It
not
was
you?
James. I
There we
muted
go.
James. James, you gotta make sure you.
Oh,
Wait, is it not you?
I muted James.
it's always James.
James, can you make sure you mute the YouTube?
It's always James.
James, can you?
Echo.
I don't want to kick him.
All right.
All right.
I
That's
think
a
it's
little bit better.
stabilized.
Yeah, well, hopefully he fixes his end. But okay, let's move on, I guess, to whatever we want to talk about.
Oh, God, why did my computer choose now to be slow? I just wanted to copy a freaking link.
Kelly dove into the fusion centers last night. She was doing a bunch of reading on that, so I'll be interested to hear what she. One of the problems is I can read a bunch of stuff. My memory ain't so hot, man. I mean, and it wasn't before the. It wasn't before the drugs. I mean, it was just so. But anyhow,
You know what I was
it'll
thinking?
be interesting to see.
I was thinking a couple of days ago, because of all this misinformation with news, is historians. Like, we've got our own history that people seem to write, and it goes into our history books at school. But if mainstream media is lying about certain stories, do you think that there's someone there that's organizing all this, writing the correct history? That way, when maybe like the next generation of people in power, they know the real history as opposed to the history that everyone else believes, I guess.
That's what happens in all cases when people write history. They rewrite it.
So how much of the history that we know is true?
Well, I mean,
That's a good question.
We probably won't know the answer.
It's subjective, depending on the author. You got people that basically the history's always written, or at least in modern times, history starts getting written as soon as the president leaves office. I mean, going from president to president, you basically, when your president leaves office, he writes a book. And
right.
his aides write books, and everybody writes books. But then there's also, at some point, their papers are released, and so historians can look through those. So there's a lot of stuff that actually it does take time just to dig through what the BS everybody was saying at the time, even to find out the truth, to be able to tell you what, even if everything you heard during that period was true, it's still, they're able to document it and give you sort of a progression of why things are. The problem is that after a certain amount of time, then things start being rewritten, and the rewrites are already rewrites because the original presidential memoirs and stuff are basically rewrites of history. I mean, tell me that Hillary's, whatever that last damn book that she put out about how she made all these hard decisions, was, that one was like a total rewrite of history, and that's what they do.
Is this the same book that? Is this the same book that documented her using slave labor at the governor's mansion?
No, that was It Takes a Village.
All
No,
right.
she wouldn't. She was far less careful in her words. You know, she was more. I think she had more moments of herself in the early stages of the Bill and Hillary show.
Well, another interesting point about rewriting history is the way that process works is going to change because of technology. We're going to have rewrites of history and ways of rewriting history that didn't exist before, and we're going to have methods of distorting history that didn't exist before.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. If you don't have a paper copy of a book, it isn't necessarily, you don't know what it's going to be, you know, because every book on the, 1984, they can do that crap. They got enough computer power probably to do that crap now. You know,
Well, when someone
as
goes to fact check, they're going to have all this data, right? Anybody's going to have access to it. Now, access to information might be limited as time goes on, but it's still going to probably be there in some form or another, barring disaster. So it's not like the past where you have these little groups of people who know certain things and these certain documents that prove something. It's gonna change as time goes on.
Bruins for Cornbread mentioned that he's a history teacher and that it just like science, you source different books, not just one. So I guess you have to do it just kind of like news. You just kind of find different sources.
That's kind of what I was saying. That historians go through the archives and to get any good idea. I mean, even just regular people to get any good idea of history, you can't read one book on World War II. You know, and what is that? Oh, jeez, can't think of his name now. Oh, he's one of the screaming demon right-wing radio talk show hosts, and he wrote a book about how Hitler was a socialist, or Hitler was a leftist, and tried to pass this off as like scholarly, truth.
That's some ridiculous shit. I've heard that like talking point. It has the name socialist in it, therefore, they were left.
And the DPRK is totally as a democratic people's republic.
Yeah, it's just dumb.
And Mussolini made the deals to put down the strikers. I mean, they were never leftist. They were the first. Leftists were like some of the first people to be attacked. So, it's just the idea that Hitler came out of that. Hitler came more out of Woodrow Wilson and the armistice than anything. It's when you give people, and that's what it worries like people about the current what's happening now, and that is that the economic situations and things are kind of similar. Income and disparity and problems between countries, and it's just there's too many sort of similarities for some people. I don't necessarily buy into it myself. I think we got a lot of. I think that instant communication has made us, if nothing else, has made us separate into lots of different groups. So,
it's made us so sensitive to language and its specific use that we begin to parse these terms, and we overanalyze them, change their meanings, the whole deal.
And the world lived through a Holocaust less than 100 years ago. I mean, it's not like this is ancient history. So it's there's still people alive. 100 years ago.
I don't know. I kind of feel like we've kind of gone into this like slow motion Holocaust. Like, is it like, okay, how many people did Hitler kill? I mean, like, but are we any better if we take 4 years to kill the same amount of people that he took 1 year to kill? You know, it's just, we're just taking a little bit longer. That's what I feel like. I mean, just at the rate that we're killing people. I mean, not just us, but, you know, everybody's just, there's no value for life.
Yeah, I mean that's everywhere, and it's that's the unfortunate part of Reed Howard Zinn. There's a historian for you, Reed Howard Zinn. and that gives you sort of this. It gives you like that it gives you a different view of what history books you got in high school. Let's put it that way.
Have any of you ever read General Smedley Butler?
Yeah, actually, a couple weeks ago, I bought War is a Racket. I expected it to be like a fairly thick book. I was like, oh, he's a war college graduate and all this. What is it, like 60 pages or something, 50 pages?
Yeah, it's not too long at all.
And what was did you want to bring up a point about him?
Well, I was just saying he's made great points in history when it comes to, war, like, and people who run war having no disregard for no regard for life at all whatsoever. It's all about dollar signs.
Yeah, exactly. Another good book to read on that is World's End. I think it was by Upton Sinclair, or was it by Sinclair Lewis? I can't remember. But it's about a family who deals in arms trading. It's a novel. It's a fictional book, but it's pretty illustrative.
Sounds like Upton Sinclair.
Yeah, I think it was Upton Sinclair. I just can't remember offhand.
I have a great. I wish I knew where it was. I'd show it to you. I have this great book of. It's like quotes, short stories. It's like a gigantic book that Upton Sinclair put together. He helped to pick out pick the quotes in it, and it's fantastic. And it's updated, I believe, and it's I think it's like Battle Cry of Freedom or something like that, but it's a great bathroom book.
Yeah, I think The Jungle should be required reading in, high school across the country. That book is informative as far as the way things work and the way they continue to work.
I think.
Has anybody read The Jungle?
Yeah, I have. It's really good.
Yes, and I also think it's good because it teaches people an idea of how a journalist looks at things differently than our journalists do now. Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, because when I think of this, when I think of him as more of a journalist, and he was known as a muckraker. But the thing was, it's always been mucky. I don't understand what this muckraker. He goes and he did stories that were rang true because they were fictionalized, but they were true, and that's what hurt. It wouldn't have hurt Hormel and the meatpacking industry as bad had he written those as newspaper articles, purely as just a straight newspaper article. You know what I mean?
That's an excellent
the idea of putting you in the shoes of the guy that goes on the line and slipping into blood and all of the rest was important for you to understand the system that had, both that mistreated that treated the animals and the men as the same.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
And treated their customers the same.
Yeah, they brought that up.
I mean, because it was his portrayal of the how atrocious health standards were in the meatpacking industry that made the wholesale changes in the way we dealt with meat. You know.
And it went beyond meat. It went into the whole economic system. I mean, he was ripped off for that house. Like, you know, he started off as a pretty good guy who wanted to, you know, help his family and whatever, and ended up becoming a drunk. And at the end, he becomes, you know, becomes a revolutionary of sorts as the book closes. But you know, it destroys him as a person. The system. I think that's another important part of the book. That's the jungle.
Oh, okay. No, yeah,
Jurgis,
okay.
the protagonist. Remember him? He started off as a pretty good guy, and you know, as things went to shit, like so.
It's okay.
I vaguely remember it. I may have to reread it just because that sounds like it's harder for me to read because of the things that have happened with my head, my neck, and everything.
Oh yeah, it's definitely worth a reread.
It's harder to concentrate, but rereading books is great because I get to reread things. I already sort of know the flow. So, and I always read. I don't know how other people read, but I read and like picture it as a movie as I'm reading. So, sort of knowing the setting already and stuff will help. It will help a second time around. I may have to reread that.
Yeah, but I have the same method of reading, and I'll reread books like 3 or 4 times because of that reason that you described. You know, you always get something a little bit more out of it.
And now I forget everything. So everything. I mean, the hardest part is remembering the chapter of the day before.
I couldn't even remember the author, dude.
I have a first edition Upton Sinclair. It's I think it's the Golden Cup or the Golden Vessel or something like that. It's about alcoholism. I've yet to read it, but I found it at a Goodwill.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, it's not like one of his, you know, it's not The Jungle or King Cole or one of the other more well-known pieces.
Have any of you read Manufacturing?
Of Upton Sinclair yet? I'm halfway through King Cole, and I was glued to it. But then I started getting back into the news again. And I put it back down, but it was so good.
Is it?
Oh yeah, and I don't think it's that long, but The Jungle is next on the list.
I know I have it on my Kindle because I think it was free. I think I downloaded that one because it was like I went through like the long list and grabbed every book that was free that I could find that I might read someday, and went ahead and just downloaded it so that, you know, no matter what happened, I had a whole bunch of books. But yeah, I've thought about reading that one just because I dug Upton Sinclair. Everything I've read that he's written, I've dug. So yeah,
I love the way that he writes. I mean, it's just it really makes you feel like you're there. You know.
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
boy.
And I think there was. I mean, he and Steinbeck were contemporaries, right?
Yeah. It wasn't like there was some difference there. I think Steinbeck was younger than Upton Sinclair, but there was
I mean, I like his portrayal of people too. I mean, if you ever want to read a book that isn't like one of his more well-known books, but is a very good book, it's In Dubious Battle.
I haven't read that one. I've read a few. I've read East of Eden and, you know, Mice and Men and Grapes of Wrath and the common ones.
Yeah, now I got to look it up because they filmed part of it around here. And if I would have been, it was like I wasn't up to physically being able to be there as much as they wanted. They were looking for like guys they were looking for guys with beards, you know. And so I was like, oh well. And then I thought about it. I said, nah, I can't. I won't be able to do that. But I gotta look it up because it was like here it is.
All right, we finally get to see James.
What's up, James?
Oh,
Oh, we can't hear you. Oh, I think I gotta meet you. All right, there you go.
Unmute me.
There you go.
Okay, so I have no idea what I did to get this thing to work. I do not even know. I was just clicking button after button after button and doing all kinds of weird shit. Next thing you know, the ugly mug's on you. So,
oh,
Update. It looks like it's Theresa May 211 and Corbyn
Hey,
212.
James.
240. Clench your buttholes, guys. This one's gonna
It updated 208
actually
to
be a close
211.
one.
Oh God, no! I don't want crazy Teresa to win.
Hey, it's all who
Come on,
counts the
Corbyn.
votes, baby.
Don't give out on us now. Oh wait, he's increased the lead again. He's 5 points up now.
Well, let's do a poll. Chat room. Pro Brexit people put thumbs up or indicate somehow, and anti Brexit
Put a
people.
smiley. Put a
indicate
smiley.
no.
Oh, I'm up for a thumbs up. Don't let me influence your vote.
I don't know the emoticon for thumbs up.
Just,
I was sort of like in the middle. I don't know about that one.
yeah, I'm with Broken. I'm like this. I'm gonna give
I
one
wish I could give you a firm. I'm usually pretty good at being able to give firm answers about things, just because I'm full of bullshit. But that one I don't feel like I feel like the Brexit thing was good for Scotland, or is that right, Scotland? Because I think that they're going to vote to leave the UK.
Well, they voted on leaving the UK and they didn't, and then I think they.
But I think after leaving Brexit, the thing was the Scottish government was like keen on staying in the Union.
Yeah.
And so, that could lead them, that could be just enough because they weren't that far away from leaving, And so the idea that could have tipped the scales and they could have a revote is, I think, totally believable from the little bit I know about it.
Maybe in the next 10 years they'll have another vote, maybe. But as it stands now, I think they would be foolish to leave the UK. Personally, I'm pro-Brexit.
I am pro-Brexit as well. I think that Germany has it set up so that like they have a giant vacuum, like all the wealth of the European Union is just flowing into Germany, but also having one currency that's like replacing all of the different nations' currencies makes it much more fragile. And if it collapses, then that's a really bad thing.
Well, and it makes it harder for countries like Greece to go ahead and just print more money when they fall into hard times. Letting other people decide how you print your money is a bad idea.
Yeah.
Just merely because Germany can squeeze Spain, they can squeeze Portugal, Portugal I don't know, but they can squeeze Spain and Greece, and Italy won't be far behind.
If Italy goes, I'm sorry, I didn't mean you go ahead, Yvonne.
Wait, what happened?
I think several people tried to talk at once, and then we all got quiet.
Yeah, and then Evan's going crazy.
He had the baby run, I think.
Okay, that was a dumb question. If you have a kid in your head, you're like, where'd he go? Well, there's probably something.
Oh no, it's tied. Oh no, this isn't good.
What? Tie?
Oh no, she's pulling ahead.
No.
I'm gonna
Don't do this, Britain. Don't do this.
I saw it coming just because he's been ahead for so long since the beginning, and they always pull in those districts at the end to make it look like it's an underdog story.
Don't want crazy Teresa to win. She's loopy. She's crazy.
Oh, I looked that up, by the way. That the movie Indubious Battle, the guy that made it is sort of a passion project, James Franco. James popped up on the screen right when I had looked up James Franco. So it would have been like popped in my head when James came on if it wouldn't. You know how it goes. I had to look something up in that voice. I don't look things up. I'm hard-headed that way. If I know it, I'll sit around all day long. 3 weeks, it doesn't matter. I will sit there and think about it till I remember it. And it'll be, a month later, I'll be walking out the door, and I'll think, oh, that, So I'm hard about looking things up.
I'm very good at navigating on the computer. It's just part of, my mom's a private investigator. She's been one since '89. I got a few interesting tales from the OJ case that she was a part of. You guys, I'll tell you about that someday. But as far as finding things, I'll find it.
Oh, it's like stuff I know I could look up easily. But the thing is, I know it. If I know it, then it becomes a fight with my brain, and it's an anal retentive thing.
I don't. I'm telling you, I'm the dumbest guy here. Every time you guys are talking, I'm like, remember Joey and Friends? Anybody remember Joey and Friends? I'm that guy. Yeah. He always came in late to the conversation. Oh yeah, sure, of course. Sure.
Yeah, well, I'm the same way. I'm exactly the same way.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I'm just full of shit.
Yeah, thank you.
We're all full of shit. Most of my job is internet research, so I'm forced to research pretty much every day, all day.
Yeah, my wife does that too, and so, but if it's like information, like to understand something, that's different. I'll look up all kinds of information. It's like a trivial pursuit in my mind.
Fuck, she's gonna win.
I won't give up.
I think that if Theresa May wins, they've already said there's going to be a coalition government either way because the parliament's going to be hung. So Jeremy Corbyn could still be prime minister tomorrow if the coalition decides.
Yeah, I was about to say, because where are the other parties leaning as far as support?
Liberal Democrats probably are going to stick with the conservatives.
All but one party have said they'll support Corbyn and the coalition government.
Really?
Which party was that?
I don't remember, but I read it about an hour ago.
Scottish Nationalists, maybe.
I don't know. This is the sort of thing that's very American. And not knowing I'm sure that other people know a lot more about the ins and outs of the British election because they have real news.
Yeah, that's part of it for sure.
You watch, even if you can have whatever opinion you want of Democracy Now, but you can't say Democracy Now covers the same exact subjects as the mainstream media does all day long. They always are talking about some war that I never heard of, and some leader getting overthrown, and it's always got our fingerprints all over it somehow.
Have any of you seen the Untold History or Oliver Stone's Untold History of the Netflix?
I have that bookmarked on my Netflix, I think. I haven't watched any of it yet.
It is the most amazing documentary show. I was addicted to it immediately, and I watched it all in 2 days. But I would recommend watching the last two first, because Oliver Stone thought to do them after he did the first 10. And they take place before the first 10. Like they start back in World War One, whereas the first 10 start with World War II. But basically, he talks about ever since McKinley, the United States has been the largest purveyor of terrorism around the world. And he talks about all the different violent coups and revolutions and behind the scenes things that we've done. And he talks about all of the hidden heroes from politics throughout history, like Henry Wallace. You'd never hear about Henry Wallace in American history class. The reality was that he was FDR's like main man, and he was like the Bernie Sanders of 1944. And the 1944 DNC actually screwed him out of the VP nomination. And if
Who
he
was
would
that
have,
again?
what was that?
Who was that?
Henry Wallace.
Okay.
But if he would have became vice president instead of Truman, he would have never dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And one of the interesting things you learn on Oliver Stone's Untold History is that Japan didn't surrender because of the bombs like they say in the United States. They actually surrendered because the Soviet Union had started the invasion on their north flank.
They were attacking Hokkaido.
And they had pretty much by that time had lost. It was going to be a battle on the homeland then.
Yeah.
You know, up until then it was island jumping mostly, and they weren't as you know, it wasn't, you know, there were bombings, you know, like, but there wasn't ground war as much, you know, and so they were looking at the possibility of ground war just as much as we were. And not liking, you know, because they knew we were pretty ruthless and we knew they were pretty ruthless. And, you know, together we knew that wasn't going to be a great, I really think that they sort of understood at that, you know, I mean, especially after we dropped the freaking atomic bomb or two. But I mean, they before then they knew we were pretty ruthless.
Burns for cornbread.
That went both ways. That went both ways. The Japanese were not, you know, they were the some of the histories I've read about the Japanese treatment of people was far worse than you know, some of the stuff that I've read. Not as systematic, but some of the things they did were pretty freaking, you know, they were just as god awful as things the Nazis did, you know. And so I mean, just that's
the story I heard on the bomb was completely different. Somewhere in the war, Japan bombed Iowa and Wisconsin. When you go down to the Iowa state capitol, the museum there, fragments of the bomb are there. They built balloons, and the balloons dropped the bombs, killed people in Washington State, and an unexploded one was discovered in Iowa in the 60s. And there was one in Wisconsin that I believe started a fire. And then they were readying to drop smallpox throughout the country. And I can't remember where I saw it, but the purpose of the bombs was to really send a message that if we were attacked with the smallpox, that we would just destroy their country, leave no survivors. And the also the fear was that it had to be such an extreme ending that they were extremely afraid that rogues would break off and continue the war even after they were told to stop. And they wanted everybody to be sure that they had no hope unless it was a complete surrender. Everybody, no separate factions or anything. And but the jet stream bombings were so successful with these balloons that was a big fear that we had to crush really quick.
Well, if I'm remembering right, and my wife just walked into the room, so she might be able to correct me, but I'm fairly certain at some point they were sending like paper balloons to set fires in the Northwest. That they would send over, just balloons that weren't bombs. They were incendiary.
The one in Iowa was incendiary.
Yeah, I mean, because the idea was that they could cause much more problems with a forest fire, than they could with that one bomb. You know what I mean? One bomb wouldn't be much, but a forest fire is a pretty big deal.
Well,
that was my little bit of understanding that I understood.
Each of the balloons dropped a lot of bombs. They were very large balloons, and they were able to stay aloft for many days.
Huh. So you're like weather, like this big, huge weather balloon thing.
Yeah, they weren't exactly as efficient as our weather balloons, but they knew enough to be able to get them up to the jet stream that they would be over here in days. And they had a little timer on them that just kept ticking off. They guessed when they would hit our coast, and they just started dropping them. And they were supposed to drop all along as far as they went, just one every so many hours.
Nothing like a little napalm in the morning. Okay,
Yeah.
so
I don't know what they're...
So the story, real quick. So the story that my dad told me that my grandfather saw when Pearl Harbor was happening, and this was actually in a couple of books out there, and he actually witnessed it. So he's just telling me the story that my grandfather, my Chinese Hawaiian grandfather, who was living in Hawaii at the time, said that there were some neighbors of his that were painting big red dots on their roofs so they wouldn't get bombed. And and they were all standing up on the roofs in Manoa Valley. Just everybody, it was like a big show during Pearl Harbor. They said it was every single house had somebody either on a roof just watching this mutilation of a harbor, military harbor. It's crazy. But
So
isn't it said that there was some collusion between us and the Japanese to start a little war?
Well,
miscommunication.
Oh, okay.
I mean, maybe.
We
We were reading
doing a lot of
all their stuff.
We were doing a lot of stuff to aggravate them prior to the war. We were also sending over a large number of B-17s that was actually landing at Pearl Harbor during the attack. That if they'd waited a few more days, we would have had heavy bomber patrols that could have gone out for farther than what they could have made it back with their aircraft. We also had heavy bombers in Burma. That were supporting the Japanese from there, but they weren't loaded with bombs. They were loaded with fuel for fighter jets to support ground fighting in the area. And a lot of people forget that when the Japanese hit Pearl Harbor, they didn't just hit Pearl Harbor. They hit almost every country in the Pacific, and I know people in Kiribati that talk about relatives, like their grandparents, siblings that were executed by the Japanese in that takeover at Tarawa. And but in the other countries, Pearl Harbor was hit in the morning, but it was still dark in the other countries, and it was real easy for the Japanese to take the other countries. Because the theory back then when they attacked all these other countries was the Japanese could not see in the dark. They only had to have bright sunlight. So they put lights on one side of the island that they thought if they put lights on one side of the island, they could concentrate their protection because the Japanese couldn't attack on the darker side.
Are you talking about because of the slant eye?
Yes, and so all of the other countries fell extremely
so bad
because the Japanese just went around to the side without the lights. and attacked from there.
God, we're so Bane.
That's why all the other, I'm trying to think what the names of the other countries are, like the Philippines and all the other countries fell so easy. Well, probably not the Philippines, it didn't go as easy as the smaller ones, but most of the colonies fell really easy because they were all, they thought that they didn't have to worry about the slant eyes. And Pearl Harbor was the only one that got attacked in the daylight.
Yep.
The Philippines is I shall return, right?
Yep.
And so yeah, they had a fairly robust rebel form or sort of mountain force kind of thing.
Well, the Philippines are much larger than the other areas that were attacked. Kiribati was called Tarawa back then, and when they attacked them, it's like 3 football fields wide and 30 kilometers long, and then it's shaped now. But you can't protect that as well as you can a large island like the Philippines.
But Tarawa, if I remember right, when we landed on Tarawa, wasn't that that they had dug in?
Yeah,
and that was a sort of horrible battle because they were so well dug in, and they would just sort of it eventually became like they got flamethrowers and were burning people out and things.
But again, prior to the war, the British held it, and they didn't think they had to fortify it much. They just had to put one bright light on one side, and all the Japanese would run into it while they shot at them.
Jeez.
Whereas the Japanese, when they came in, they heavily fortified it. And any of the people of Tarawa, the males that were not hiding, beheaded.
So there's go ahead.
I remember hearing a story about a particular machine gunner on Tarawa. He had somehow he had rigged up one of the guns from a fighter plane that fired at a very high rate, and he just did like these massively heroic things during that battle. As far as like not only like sort of breaking loose areas where they were getting pinned down, but also like running back and forth with injured and getting ammunition. The whole story about that one guy was pretty impressive, just from a heroic standpoint. But I saw a thing on the like Philippine Special Forces, and they were talking about how there's like a couple old cats, and they were talking about how when the Japanese would come through, what they would do is they would wait, and the last guy in line, they would go up behind him and grab him by the crotch and push him by the head, and that would just out of sheer reaction, they'd drop their weapon and they'd fall on the ground, and then they'd shove a sock in his mouth, and they would drag him off into the jungle to get information. But like these guys did all this crap without shooting the gun or anything, and like it was it was another one of those stories where better you than me, man. I don't know about that sneaking up. Let's put it this way: people that can sneak up so close to me they can walk up behind me and knock me down when I'm on full alert sort of worry me, creepy crawly guys.
You also have to remember that the Philippines is a pretty large island that has jungle, and people that grow up in it can maneuver in it much better than the people that came from a more what would you call cutout siding that's not a jungle.
An opener battlefield or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you always have a disadvantage with the locals. I mean, that's a given. I mean, nobody knows in the area as well as they do. At least, that's always been my thinking.
Somebody that hunts in the jungle is going to be much quieter than somebody else that's trampling through it, trying to get through, and thinks that because of their rifle they have superior or firepower.
Yeah, and there's plenty of stuff in the jungles that I wouldn't want to run into, even with, I wouldn't necessarily want to surprise any of them,
Have any of you guys read Manufacturing Consent by Noam Chomsky?
No.
I have.
It's on my reading list.
We saw the video.
My video series.
I haven't seen the video series, but I actually have the book in front of me. I've been reading it over the last 2 weeks or so.
What does it look like? Oh, crap. You don't have a video. Oh, you don't have a video.
Well, it's got like an ink pen, like a fountain ink pen on the front with it. And it's got, it says manufacturing consent, but it's got a T traced over the S. So it also says manufacturing content. But it's really good and it's really informative. I got it at the same time that I bought Jimmy Dore's book.
How was that book?
Oh, it's great. It's hilarious. But if you watch a show, you've heard a lot of it before, but it's really good to actually have it written down because a lot of the good sayings and talking points he has about Social Security and all that being solvent and the catchphrases he has, like if you're mad at someone lower on the economic scale than you, it's because someone higher has you fooled. Like that stuff's all in his book, and it's really nice to be able to just hand a book to your conservative relatives and have them read it.
Okay, so it's got the calligraphy pen on it. I see it.
Yeah.
And then the T's kind of embossed there. It's cool.
Yeah.
How do you post stuff? Okay, I'll figure it out. Anyway. Okay, so earlier you guys were talking about, we're talking about Brexit, and then we're talking about the BBC is not as fake news or a little more real. Did somebody mention that? Did somebody say that the BBC News is more real or non-fake than MSNBC, CNN, Fox, our mainstream news?
I would say it's more real. I would say it's a step up of all the news on TV, but I wouldn't say it's the most accurate or anything. I think that
it's a step up from U.S. media, but
yeah,
and especially if they're covering the United States.
Yeah,
they're covering another. If they're covering another country, they do a better job. Not necessarily, but they do a better job than our media does. I mean, they certainly will cover the ongoing wars more than our media does.
Well, part of the thing is someone mentioned something about how we don't know a whole lot about European politics because we're so isolated over here. And the same thing happens when we're talking about media. I mean, they can't really get away with spreading as much bullshit because in Britain, let's say, because the Swiss media is right there next to them. So you don't have this consolidated media interest the way you have over here in the U.S.
So when the towers were going down, or sometime thereof or after, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I've watched this several times where the BBC is reporting that Building 7 has gone down as well, but it's still standing in a camera shot behind the reporter.
Yeah, that one was moved. That one is a strange video.
That's a strange video, man. I've looked at it several times.
What video is this?
It's look up YouTube. Go ahead.
BBC. I would just look up BBC World Trade 7. I'm sure that'll be enough.
I'm posting the link. Just telling you. But
Yeah,
that's the thing. I mean, remember who owns. I mean, you guys, like we've been talking so many times, Broken and Eben and Lucas and Zork and the whole 9 yards. I think it's better. I mean, when it comes to an election, sure, Brexit and the whole 9 yards and who's going to be elected, whatever. But when it comes to, I think, oh God, domestic policy coverage of something, I don't believe. I think there's some bipartisanship, and I think there is a little bit of manipulation or swaying. Like Comey today was planting seeds for the Russian. I mean, you heard of it. He even said, "Oh, I forgot to mention this earlier," and then he brought up Russia.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, and this comes from an ex-FBI director.
Yeah, I think part of that too was the Comey had, like, you know, he's got like one shot in public to do this.
Yeah.
So he wants to make sure he gets everything out there, because the more he has sort of out there and on the record publicly, the better off he is as just a private guy. You know, with the president sort of, you know, once the president fires him, the president commenting about just some Joe Schmo on the street, even if he is the ex-FBI head, is you know, I mean, this is the thing that Trump gets away with, is the lowering of the bar of what we expect a president to understand. You know, basically that the idea that we would give a you know, very smart guy, knows all the big words and everything, that we need to give him the benefit of the doubt on his language, when this guy has dealt with, you know, gangsters his whole life. He knows how to talk, to, you know, say something without saying something. So the idea that he would sidle up, you know, and make sure that he's alone in a room with Comey, to sidle up to him and say something like that, doesn't surprise me in the least, you know, and what his meaning was wouldn't surprise me in the least. It's just, you know, whether all that's going to be provable or it means it's going to go anywhere. It's more of a political thing now. It's like, you attack the FBI. Comey's entire life was in the FBI. And, you know, I think part of it's his own pride and his pride in the FBI.
Well, one advantage to Trump is the fact that I think it wakes people up to how little some of our presidents actually do know, and how, you know, intelligent some of these people are. I mean, we elect them and they present themselves well. You know, look at like Lyndon Johnson, for example. I mean, he was a bright guy, but he didn't know half of what was going on.
Hey, I mean, I am a firm believer in, you know, watching some C-SPAN now and then, because hearings are where we get to understand what's happening behind the scenes without having the mainstream media sort of telling us what was happening. And I watch these things, and like if like you're watching something and they're talking about economics, I know nothing about economics, but I know more than a lot of the people that sit on, you know, like what's her name, the crazy-eyed dame from Minnesota, the Republican.
Sarah
No, Minnesota's Sarah Palin.
Michelle Bachmann?
Yes, thank you. Michelle Bachmann.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you want to hear some crazy come out. You should see her in like some of the sort of not the big, you know, hearings about things, but the smaller sort of hearings about things that are important to for the people to understand, to write laws about them. But, you know, a lot of it is show. I mean, they do these hearings knowing what the answers are, because they invited the guys they want to answer in a certain way. and so everybody kind of knows what's going to happen, but it's how people ask questions. It's why Franken's pretty good in hearings, because Franken is good with language. And Franken, I think, actually spends some time and understands what he's going to talk about, because these people, I've said it before, I'll say it again. These people ain't that fucking smart, man. I mean, for people that are in our government, it scares me that I'm looking at them and going, my God, I don't know anything, and I know more than you know, and that is a scary thought.
Well, that's the thing. Like Trump's quote, lack of intelligence, which I don't think he's unintelligent personally, but that scares people. But the fact is like, hey, man, we had Ronald Reagan in office.
Yeah.
Okay, like Trump and Ronald Reagan, you put those two in a room, I think Trump's going to come out on top.
I tell you what, here's the thing. Ronald Reagan actually ran a state. Ronald Reagan knew the basics of government. Ronald Reagan knew more than, I would say this. Ronald Reagan knew more than the basics of government. I think Trump understands very roughly. He asks too many questions that I know the answers to. He, publicly people have come out and said he's asked these questions. Some of them are, why haven't we used an atomic bomb lately?
Well, now bear in mind, I'm talking about Reagan as POTUS, not as governor of California.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that. Well, yeah, I know, but the thing was, Ronald Reagan, early in his first term, wasn't that he was more lucid. Okay, his first campaign was a lucid campaign.
Well, in my opinion,
but the thing was, he understood government, and he understood how to make things happen. He understood the kind of people he needed in place to make things happen. You know what I mean? He didn't hire like his buddy. He hired somebody that he knew was gonna work. And what ended up happening was those very people ran the government while he was sort of, dribbling in the glass and eating jelly beans.
Well, but the point remains that the American people have an unwarranted confidence in the position of president. They think that the president can solve things that he can't. They think that he has powers that he does not have. And they expect the president to do things, and people just don't understand the role of POTUS.
Of the figurehead? You're talking about the figurehead?
There's more to make it concise, there's more figurehead elements to being POTUS than most people seem to understand.
Yeah.
There's more figure than head a lot of that time. That's the thing. Basically is what he's saying. I mean, yes, that's why the bully pulpit is so important, and why Obama was such a dreadful failure in that respect, was that he had a chance to use the bully pulpit in a way that since FDR or Kennedy, Johnson, or maybe Reagan.
It's more
for those in the right wing, but
It's only more figure than head, unless you're Bill Clinton. That's all I want to say.
Bada-boom.
Well, that's what I think. Idiocracy. Have you guys seen Idiocracy?
I love that movie. Yes.
Well, that's why I think the Idiocracy had it right whenever they had the smartest person become president. Because it's like they instead of having like the malevolent idiocy that we have with the Republican Party, in Idiocracy they have a benevolent idiocy where everyone is kind of dumb, just because they don't know any better. Whereas in our America and like the actual future, everyone's dumb because they're being willfully ignorant, and they'd rather just ignore things that don't line up with whether it's a religious view or how they were raised or whatever, and like they just can't accept it, and they have cognitive dissonance.
Yep. So here's a question I have, and this is, how is I mean, there's about about maybe three or four of us are of a generation where we did a lot of learning from books and we spent it's like I say to my kids that I lived at the end of actual reality. We just our moms kicked us out of the house because we didn't have nothing to do in the house. They kicked us out of the house and we went out and played the gasoline and did all the stuff little kids aren't supposed to do. But it's all that stuff that you do, learning experiences, like you don't play with gasoline because it's really flammable stuff. Or at least you learn how to be careful with gasoline.
Don't make Zoolander's friends.
Oh God, we did stupid stuff. But my question is this: we learned in a different way at a different pace with different equipment, and how is that rewired our kids' brains in a way that's different from ours, in how they take in information, how they deal with information, and even how they think.
All right, let's take a quick break. Troxney, can you do a mic check? Are you talking? We can't hear you.
Okay.
Oh wait, I think I just heard something.
Just a little bit.
Okay, I hear him. But Troxney, Lucas, do you guys want to introduce yourselves a little bit?
Can you hear me better now?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Got the right microphone now.
You want to go first?
There we go. We got you.
Okay,
Okay,
wait,
I'm a Norwegian. Then I've joined here a few times, but never with web camera. Got a new one recently, so
awesome.
Figured I'd test it.
And Lucas.
Aloha.
Well, I am an Ohioan from Trumptown, Ohio. My city and county both went 60% to Trump, and whenever the general election was going on, I was one of the only 3 people in my county to support Jill Stein. So, yeah, I'm 18, and I'm coming to you using my Yeti Blue microphone that I purchased back at Christmas time because I was planning on starting a podcast with some friends, but that kind of fell through.
You can always start yourself, man.
Yeah.
See, that's cool. When I hear, like I was telling these guys a while back, and Lucas, you don't know this, but when I was your age, I had no idea what anything was about politics at all. And what was really sad is at the University of Hawaii, when I was going there, I didn't graduate, by the way. I was taking Hawaiian politics, which had some of the national politics engulfed in it, and my head just got beat out so much from playing football that I don't remember any of it, sadly.
Well, there's some kind of militant faction in Hawaii, isn't there? Not overtly militant, but they want to separate from the U.S., right?
Yeah, they want to. I've talked to a few of them, and I say, okay, so let's just say you guys decide to branch away by yourself. Then who's going to protect you when the Saudis come and take you? Who's going to protect you when China comes to take you? It's idiotic. It's they're holding the grudge, which I understand because I'm Hawaiian, and I understand the grudge of the missionaries coming in, like missionaries have done all over the world, and taken over the Aborigines. But that's, and then we do have some land that you can get, but they want their hierarchical positions back, and it's only about, I would say it's only about a quarter of the Hawaiian populace. There's only about a recorded 6,000 pure Hawaiians left on the planet.
Wow.
I'm only 38.5% Hawaiian. So that's a lot. But the point is they're just I understand they're pissed. I understand they don't like what happened, but I just said, just be like the Indians and build a couple of casinos. That's what I said.
Well, I understand, definitely. I mean, you look at the history of the U.S. and Europe and Hawaii, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
But we got to deal with the reality on the ground, too. I mean, you're right. What would happen if Hawaii left?
Exactly. They'd be open to anything. And if they actually had the ability to separate themselves as a state and all of a sudden it's 49, they're just open to it would just be chaos.
Well, the thing is, I think that if any of if Hawaii were to split from the United States, I think that whenever because China is already currently planning on land grabs in Africa to feed their growing population of 1 billion, whenever climate change hits. And I was reading an article about peak oil the other day, and they were talking about how New Zealanders have to worry about China possibly coming and taking all the pristine farmland there in the future. But if Hawaii were to leave the Union, I feel like they'd be opening themselves up for the Chinese to just come in and take all of that pristine farmland and all the nice tropical, volcanic rich soils.
Well, I think what would happen if Hawaii left the U.S., I don't think there would be an overt land grab by any nation. That would provoke a
war,
giant war. Yep. So, what would happen is, 20, 30 years, Hawaii would become Haiti or something.
It would become a patronage.
Saipan. It would become like Saipan or something, where it's factories and people working for shit wages, all that.
Well, it would be what would happen was it would become a patronage thing from Russia or China. Would treat them the same way we treat South American countries,
I don't think it would fall out of the U.S. sphere of influence, even if it left.
I don't think it. First off, I don't think any state's getting away with leaving again.
No,
nobody's gonna. That one's gonna. You can't. There's no way to get enough people to agree within any one region to pull that off. I mean, because you need such. Even to leave the Union, I would think you needed to also call a constitutional convention, if I remember right. It's not like you can just leave. It would be a thing where you'd have to get the other states to agree to let you to leave.
Well,
if I'm right, isn't that right? Anybody with a little bit better understanding of how it works?
I mean, I don't think so. I think that if California, because I know they have the Cal seed or the Cal eggs or whatever, California has the fake but half fake but half real secede movement going on there. That for some reason all the dumbass Republicans that in the middle of the country are loving, even though they would lose all of the money that comes to their states from taxes every year. But they were whenever I was reading about if California wanted to exit the Union, the only real thing they'd have to do for the rest of the country would be to purchase all of the United States military bases within their state. Otherwise, they would kind of be like how England or another country would have military bases within their country.
Yeah, I don't see any. I don't see any of this. When I hear Texas wants to succeed, Oregon wants to succeed,
Florida,
part of California wants to succeed. Humboldt County, where all the marijuana is. It's not going to happen. I mean, because when push comes to shove, they still need the federal dollar. To keep their people happy. It's just. The state amount is not enough, and the whole economic process and the infrastructure, it's just silly.
Plus, guys, if Texas didn't leave during Clinton and Obama, nobody's going to leave.
Yeah.
I mean, is what I put on my hat with my Cascadian flag on it. Yeah, we actually have bigger plans. We want part of California, Oregon, Washington, and British Columbia. It's a bioregion.
I thought the biggest problem in Hawaii was just the cost of living.
Yeah, I posted that. I posted milk was $8.99 a gallon the other night.
Jeez.
Are you there now?
No, I wish. I'm close. I'm in Anaheim, California.
Tell me this: what's a minimum wage job? You know, basically a minimum wage job pay there.
In Cali, I think we're at 10.
In Hawaii.
I think they're at 10, right? 10.50. I think they're at 10.50.
I had to demonstrate a piece of equipment in Oahu, and I had to carry it on as a carry-on. I didn't want to have strange smells of any kind of chemicals or anything draw any attention to it. And I made it so it would fold up and fit in a suitcase. But like I said, to get around false triggering some dogs, I made it so that it would seal with butter and then just left it clean on the trip out. And when I got to Hawaii, a pound of butter was $10.
Crazy.
Island living is expensive. I've lived on an island before, and any island, it's pricey. Like, they got to ship everything over. It's like $6 for 4 apples or something. I think I spent once.
Yeah, I ended up using a tube of sunscreen for the sealant, and I got it for 50 cents. It's like it must be subsidized in that state.
I worked with this laborer that was Hawaiian, and this guy I've never met. First off, incredibly nice guy, but I've never met a tougher guy in my life. I mean, that dude, he skinned his arm from like his wrist all the way down to his elbow. I could see bone and stuff. Because he was doing some, he fell against some rebar, just the sharp edge on the rebar just skinned him. So I was like following him down the ladder, just making sure he doesn't fall. He just get pissed at me because I'm slowing him down. I mean, he was a really cool guy. But one night we were, I was working late, and he greased the tower crane. And to grease the tower crane, you had to get up there and you had to hook off and swing underneath the last pulley there at the end of the crane and get in there and grease it, And so he's up there, and I hear on the radio, I hear him say, "Is it okay if I do it?" And I hear the operator say, "Yeah, I guess." And then I look up there, and he hand over hand, he hooked himself to the main line, and hand over hand from the end of the tip of the crane underneath the entire crane on that cable. And even he admitted he was getting tired by the end, but it was a pretty impressive. It was an impressive feat for it being sort of stuntmanish, but it was also trust me, we all would have been fired if anybody would have seen us. I mean, it's like so buku. I'm bad to be seen doing something like that, but
most people don't
he
realize
was
about
a tough
Hawaii
dude.
is how far ahead they are on renewable energy than the rest of the country. Everybody reports about California, but when I got out there, it was a conference for sustainability in the Pacific, and Hawaii is so much farther ahead than the other states in their attitude and everything else for renewable energy that they're really being ignored, and we should be looking at them as how going. And a lot of the islanders that I met there were dealing with water purification, and most of the Pacific Islands right now aren't tall enough, like Hawaii has mountains that let them catch water in larger amounts. The atolls, they don't have water at all. They're all having to sell their fishing rights in order to get water. So they're living on mostly charity from other countries, like United States. The Church of Latter-day Saints and the Catholics supply a lot of food and diesel fuel for them to run their islands. and they're overrun with people. One island has enough water for 500 people, and they have 30,000 people living in their capital. And it's just
that's why I would never consider moving to Hawaii long term. Is for that reason. I mean, the lifeline is stretched pretty thin.
Hawaii and Fiji have the best supplies of water.
Well, I just said, but we're talking about all resources, not just water. I mean, how many people are living on the islands now? Is it sustainable?
Hawaii is getting pretty full. Oahu, I haven't been to the other islands. Agriculture takes a lot of resources.
Yeah.
The Big Island has a large amount of farms.
And a lot of lava.
Yeah.
Well, myself, my mom, and my sister and my brother, we bought a couple of parcels in Kailua, which was really nice, and it wasn't at the time designated or zoned as a flow of threatening lava, if you guys understand what that is. So we had it for about 5 or 6 years. The price was going up, and I think it was about 2006. Yeah, I think it was 2006. Kilauea went off and just annihilated everything. It was so bad. We lost our land. It was just turned into a bunch of black rock.
Yeah. Hawaii can't do what Iceland did. Iceland engineers their flows. They direct the lava to where they want it to go next. And that's
they have thermal power. They have I forgot the hell with it.
Right, but the
thermal power that they know how to harvest, which I think is something that Hawaii could easily do. But they don't take advantage of.
Well, yeah, it's separate, but in Hawaii, it's illegal to divert a lava flow.
Yeah, Pele will get pissed off.
Mm-hmm. But it's still a law, which means you can't do it.
No.
In Iceland, it's a law that you must do it.
So how is Hawaii the leader? Because I just heard that not Arizona, but Nevada is now the leader. Is now 100% green or renewable energy. So
I saw that today, or was it yesterday?
It doesn't make any sense.
Because they don't even look to see what Hawaii's doing.
Yeah.
It's like Hawaii's not a part of the United States or something. But I was out there. It was a Pentagon-sponsored event, and we had a whole bunch of panelists talk about all the energy stuff that was going on in Hawaii. And part of the thing was you could take a trip out to go see all the installations. And Lockheed Martin was talking about putting an offshore OTEC plant, being a multi-billion-dollar OTEC plant. And I think we were the only other OTEC people there. And it's kind of hard to go against Lockheed. And they put us in a room where you could only go with the Pentagon's permission. You could only go see our device after 5 o'clock. And they let Lockheed Martin have theirs there during the day. So the convention closed at 5 o'clock, and you had to have permission to stay late, permission to see my device. So they really give some companies a lead versus the other. But other than that, there was people there on fish farming. There's a lot of fish farming going on in Hawaii. Very sustainable. They grow a lot of their own shrimp, not in the ocean, but on land in Hawaii.
Yeah, there's a lot of permaculture farms.
And when it comes to farming with microbes, they are also leaders. They're ahead of the mainland states in that, because they were trying to farm using all the fertilizer methods that we're using.
The algae, it's algae farm after algae farm, right?
Well, no, this is separate. It was getting to the point where all of the test farms for like Monsanto and stuff couldn't grow a thing. and they test the soil and they say it's got fertilizer. It's got fertilizer. Throwing more fertilizer on it didn't help. And they found that when they used pesticide, they killed the necessary microbes for different plants to absorb the nutrients that they needed. So they started playing around with the microbes and getting it back there. And the University of Hawaii's agronomy department basically brought their ability to farm back to life. And Professor Honda's getting on in his age, and he was actually able to give a talk there, probably one of his last ones, on how they brought it back.
Well, it's not even only pesticides that destroy the soil too, even the chemical fertilizers, because they all are chemical salts. And so like what you'll notice, like when you drive around suburban USA, especially in places where it gets very hot, like in California or in like Ohio, everyone's lawn will be green, and then in the spring and then in the summer it's brown all summer long, and all it takes is like 3 days without rain. And people go out and they'll say they do all their lawn care and their greening, and they'll put fertilizer on it, and they don't know why their lawns are dead. And the reason is because whenever they put that fertilizer on, they're actually making the soil less able to hold onto the water because it salts the soil.
Yeah, Miracle Grow is almost Epsom salt.
Yeah.
It makes it more porous. Terrible.
Yeah.
So speaking of Nevada, in Nevada, there's the Mojave Underground River. Have you guys ever heard of that?
No.
Yeah. Okay, well, underneath there, and Nestle's tapped in to the north trying to take a bunch of fresh water, but because of just over time, it's become polluted, and that water was probably the purest form of water that I've ever had in my Uncle Bill's catfish farm in Newberry Springs, which was south of Nevada and above Barstow Station, if you guys know where that's at. But I'm just telling you, I don't know if that's a part of what they're doing in Nevada. Are they using some of that water? Oh, this is what they're using some of that water for the tower. We were talking about this last night, Zork.
Yeah.
The tower. Solar power. Thank you. Yes. And when the birds fly by, they get zapped and killed. They turn into Kentucky Fried Chicken.
I'm surprised even that much survives. But depending, I guess, where they hit the beam.
That's why that's it. That's the connection, I think, of them being 100% renewable, which pissed off a lot of the Indians and a lot of environmentalists, because there were a lot of these are acres and acres and acres and hundreds of acres and you were saying terawatts. And then they also have net metering that they get. Who knows what net metering is?
Anybody? Net metering is where you I think that's the wrong term, but what they do is they on electric use, when you have your own solar power, they will do a meter at your house that tells us the electricity flowing in or out. They also charge different amounts for different times a day.
Yeah, it's not net metering. It's close. Something metering.
Yeah, I'm sorry. As soon as you said net metering, I forgot the term.
You're like, what the hell is he talking? That happens. So what happens is you get a little kickback. So what was happening with these giant towers of solar panel that were turning birds into Kentucky Fried Chicken, they were built by private contractors. These giant things that will come in, and if you can see them as you're flying from LA, Orange County, or whatever, to Vegas, they're everywhere. And the money that they were getting from the grid was like 2 or 3 times more than what the average person that had solar panels on his house was getting. A little kickback from the grid, like a discount. Thank you for helping us save some of the solar power or some of the energy that we're producing. Here's a little kickback. It was like 11 cents or something
The non-commercial producers have to pay a surcharge for using the wires to transmit the electricity they're selling, where the large commercial ones buy it in bulk.
Yeah, I don't know. I did a thing on this because I was into solar. I don't really remember that much. I only did it for a few months, but I sent you the little article. It was solar farming for all, because I really believe that, and this should happen. Period. Everybody should have solar on the top of their houses. I mean, it's just the dumbest thing in the world that you either don't have a windmill or something solar powered or a kinetic machine that runs by itself forever. I don't know, but it just seems like, and it really does appear that the grid, in regards to powering your house for your stove and your kitchen and your refrigerator and us and our computers, it's like it's a monopoly. They've monopolized everything.
Well, and it's inefficient too.
Yes.
One of my funnest projects I think I had in the last few years was somebody wanted to make a battery for boats. Because when you're out in the ocean, you don't have the opportunity to call somebody to come and give you a jump start. Something happens and your battery's dead in your boat. So a lot of them carry secondary batteries. And we did a secondary battery that could be powered by pulling off a tab and pouring in seawater or pissing in it.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And then when you're done, you pulled another tab and it became biodegradable and you throw it in the ocean. And of those of us that are old enough to remember fizzies, this pop drink that you'd throw in, you basically use the same chemical combination as those and for Alka-Seltzer, and had it in multiple layers. So when the layers between them got wet with seawater, they would trigger it to start fizzing and churn up the water around it so it would decay faster. And but the amount of power that you piss out every day is just incredible. And all you need to do is piss it across I think it's zinc and iron. and basically you can charge a little battery for a few hours.
Well, there we go. We'll base our whole economy on that.
I'm gonna YouTube it. I'm gonna YouTube. Well, how would I word that if I was gonna YouTube that?
Let me make sure that patent's clear for me to let you use it.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll have a piss-based economy, a piss-based power system.
Oh.
We found work for everybody.
Well, either you'd have to drink more, or the amount of power we now use is pretty incredible. I'd only charge your cell phone.
All right, so hey, I got a red. Can you watch this? Can you see me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was $27. I picked it up. I'm just saying, if you want us to make a PayPal or a GoFundMe, and I'll give you like $5. But I got this from your favorite store, Walmart, and mine too. It's a Logitech 250, and Evan told me to get one of these things. So, and it's working pretty good. I still am trying to figure it out.
It's a Logitech 270.
It's a Logitech C270.
It looks pretty clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks good.
It's doing the job, man. There's more tricks to it. You can toggle it, but I don't know. I'm just gonna leave it at it. If I fuck with it anymore, it's gonna blow up. That's what I think is gonna happen.
It'll shock you.
Yeah.
Well, have you guys ever heard of the Jevons paradox?
No.
No.
Well, it's the paradox that states the more efficient you make something, like let's say an engine, let's say if you make a more efficient car engine, then the more of like the fuel people will burn, because then more people will drive more in it because they'll get more bang for their buck.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting phenomenon the more and more you learn about it. And I wonder if that would apply also to some breakthrough in battery technology. Like if we make a more efficient battery that can hold more electricity, will people just use more electricity and then still be completely unsustainable, or people actually learn how to, use their electricity?
That's a good question.
The electricity for the refrigeration for the big gulp machine at Quick Trip might use more power than is actually that you can piss into the battery.
Oh wow.
That question has to do more with human nature than it does with the actual technology.
Well, gas prices do that. Gas prices force people to drive less.
Oh,
and, it's been shown people do that.
Don't even talk about gas prices over here. Gas price, regular unleaded. Well, it's worse in Hawaii, of course, but regular unleaded, I think the average in California is $3.
Well,
but we've been up to like $5. We've been up to like $5.
Yeah,
it's been crazy here, man.
We have a Norwegian here. What do Norwegians pay per liter for gas, and multiply that by 4?
Okay, let's see. It's like
when I was in Denmark, it was really expensive, and that was 10 years ago.
I guess like let's see, I have to convert.
In Ohio, it's like $2.30 or $2.40 on average, at least where I live.
It's $2.30 today.
Somewhere between $7 to $8, I guess. For
oh my God!
1 gallon.
Yeah.
But isn't Norway also much more walkable, and isn't there much more public transportation as well?
No. If you live in Oslo, it's good, and I guess if you live in the big cities, but we don't have big cities. I mean, we just have 3 big cities. So
do you have trains?
Norway is huge.
Like if you trains, yeah, we have trains, but usually they're not that reliable either.
We don't even have trains, my friend.
I wish the United States had trains. Like I'd like to have the commuter train system like Spain has.
Yeah.
That's like the United States. They spend all that money. Like that Jevon principle, I think, applies to the interstate systems too. That the traffic builds up, so they say, well, we're going to put a new road in to eliminate the traffic. But when they put a new road in, it just brings more people in from other places. Like in Pennsylvania, they put Route 78 in. When they opened Route 78, there was such an influx of people from New York and New Jersey who had higher taxes over there coming here. Now they commute, so they're spending more on gas. The roads are still clogged. And they would have put that money into like mass transportation systems. It would have been so much better. Even if they came into the area, the energy wouldn't be used so much. The roads wouldn't be clogged so much. It'd be a so much better system for everybody.
Absolutely right.
Our gas is heavily subsidized to be this cheap, because it hurts the states that rely on tourism for people driving there. If we weren't getting all the hidden subsidies to our gas companies, our prices would be worse than Norway's. Norway can float their gas right to them. They don't have to do a lot of the tricks that we need to do to get to the gas. And they even have a national fund from their gas extraction. So if they're doing $8 an hour, our real gas price should probably be $10 a gallon.
Well, the thing about Norway is that we sell most of our oil, and we sell most of our renewable energy, and then we purchase from others.
And is it Norway or is it Sweden that has to buy the garbage now, because they have some power plants that run on garbage, and Norwegians or Swedes don't make enough?
I'm not sure, but I know we have like buses here in my town that runs on garbage.
Yeah, and we're just wasting all that here.
It's a light years ahead of us. It's
But,
ridiculous. This technology's been around.
that happened last year for my town. Previously, we didn't do it.
So if anything should be subsidized, it should be switching from landfills to biomass power plants that burn garbage and turn it into fuel.
You were paying the higher prices through the back door. We're subsidizing the gas prices, but we're paying it through our taxes.
Well, but also a lot of the gas prices are so cheap because the Middle East and like Saudi Arabia and places we're getting our gas from have been trying to undercut American and Canadian oil companies and put them out of business. That way, whenever prices have to go up, the Middle Easterners will be the only people we can buy from. But what they've realized is that thanks to the United States subsidizing our own oil companies, that won't happen. So now they're trapped where they're damned if they keep the prices low, and then they're damned if they raise the prices up. And so they're kind of stuck keeping the prices at around the same price they're at now.
And the fracking boom dropped the bottom out of natural gas. So natural gas became super competitive, and besides their own internal problems with money, Saudi Arabia once was undercutting Iran and other countries, and that's, I guess, what the big deal with Qatar is right now. Is sort of an argument over, because they deal with the Iranians, and they also aren't happy with the production numbers. But the one of the other things you got to remember too is energy has become commodified. It used to be, energy was like your electric company. You buy the electric company on monopoly. That was the electric company was a public thing or a nonprofit, but it when they commodified it had like things happen, like when the Enron crash happened. There were aluminum plants that bought energy. They buy, like you were saying, you buy energy in bulk, and they would buy it ahead of time to stabilize their price for energy. Well, they had such a good price on energy that it made more money for them to shut the plant down, sell the energy, and that's what they did. They shuttered the plant and sold their electric. And so, I mean, that's one of the problems with the way we run things is we've commodified once again something that should be basically a common good. I mean, we don't need to have people burning candles anymore for power. And if we had $8 a gallon gas, we'd have electric cars.
Well, I think if
noticed, also just in their grab for wealth, they're basically trying to get all their land back. Well, not back, but steal out from underneath us. I know that they're doing all these like co-tenancy, and I'm still trying to look into it. I don't know if y'all know anything about it, but it's like joint. I forget the word for it, but basically, if a certain percentage of the people, sell to the gas company, that you're going to get undercut. Basically, like you're going to have to sell, and they're going to buy it for cheap. So I mean, they're just and what they're doing in Flint with taking back, repossessing people's houses, and they're doing it for college students, college loans now. What they're doing is it's that dollar bill trick where you put it in the machine and you have it on a string and you just keep pulling it out, and you get all your free drinks. So that's, I don't know, like that's kind of how I see what they're doing to our land and houses and stuff. I don't know. Do y'all know anything about that?
Yeah, public demand or public domain, they only offer you 75% reimbursement anyway. So you already start off with a loss. You go to court, you might be able to get 50. Your lawyer's going to tell you that and say, give up. You're only going to get 75. If we try anything else, it's just going to cost you down to zero.
Like I've just noticed like I don't know, a lot more stories lately in the news. Just I don't know if it's just the banks or what's going on with that, but it's kind of scary,
Well, the Biden bankruptcy bill, he should always be remembered for that. As much as he wants to talk about his Defense of Women Act, the Biden bankruptcy bill was written for the credit card companies and the credit companies, and they made sure that certain types of debt that normal people, middle class people, poor working people have, all of that debt can't be, you can't write off that debt. Your student loans and all these other things, you can't write off that debt. But if it's Trump's corporation, he can run it into the ground while taking money off the top of it the whole time, and then declare bankruptcy and leave everybody hanging. So it's always.
That's what. Oh, they know that trick here, like back of their hand. They did that with the when they poisoned the water with the Elk River spill, and they do it with the coal companies. They just filed bankruptcy and oops, sorry, we can't pay your pensions or whatever. So, they love bankruptcy for themselves.
Yeah, and like I say, he had the rules. He made sure the rules were written for the credit companies, and for the banks, and forever he should be remembered for that, because there was a time when normal people could write off most of their debt, and start fresh. And it's not like they give people, they declare bankruptcy. It's not like they're welcome with open arms, but they're welcome with open arms because they get charged like 35% interest and crap. Some horrific interest because they're allowed to. And, let's put it this way. I feel like bookies and leg breakers are more honest than bankers,
Yeah.
I mean, for no other reason than they have to be, because if they get a bad word on the street, that people won't do business with them. Loan sharks, same thing. It's like the businesses there, it's straight out. They ain't gonna fuck you over if you don't fuck them over, kind of deal. And so, but bankers can, it's lawyers and money and guns and all that stuff. So,
well, the banksters are the real criminals because they're the ones who take from you without you even knowing. I mean, even if you don't have a credit card, you're still paying a tax on everybody else's credit card that goes to the banks whenever you go to the grocery store that accepts credit cards, because they're not able to charge you a tax for using your credit card, but the credit card companies charge those stores for letting them accept your card. And so then since they can't charge you for that, they compensate by raising the prices for everybody else.
Yeah, I used to go into a little store, and that was like the thing. They didn't have a credit card machine because what they wanted for the credit card machine wouldn't be worth it for them to spend the money for it. It was better for them just to keep on doing business in cash than to switch over.
Yeah, I think cash and Bitcoin are probably the way to go.
Really? There's been discussion here in Norway about, making a cashless society, country anyway.
I mean, I think
it didn't go through because of respect for the elderly that still use cash. There was no other argument, as far as I know, at least here.
I feel like an entire nation that's moneyless it'd probably be very difficult to set up, at least in the modern day. But I feel like you could probably set up local currencies, and maybe in like a local currency, because I've heard of free economic, not like Freakonomics like the book, but like FREE Freakonomics, where people go and if they want something, then they turn it into a service economy where if you want something, you either barter or you provide a service to a person, or you kind of give that person a credit that you owe them, and your handwritten note.
Is cashless economy part of the national discussion in Norway?
Oh no, I meant coins, and I just meant. Of course, we would have cash, but.
Oh, do you mean getting rid of the physical cash? Like
yeah, the physical, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So only having debit and credit cards.
Well, it's a lot more doable now, because 10 years ago, or 25 years ago, we wouldn't even thought about it, because the main thing that holds back is the ability to give someone $5. Now almost everybody has cell phones, or I believe in Norway it's bil. Is that right?
Well, you can pay with anything, cell phones.
Right, but the cell phones, almost everybody has one. I thought they were called bila in Norway.
No, not bil, mobil.
Okay. And then no, it's short for mobile. Or I'm thinking of the wrong country. I think it must be Denmark that calls them bil. But everybody's got one, and you just have an app on it to trade your cash for you, receive your cash, and it's more convenient than having the coins go out through the hole in your pocket.
I'll tell you another thing. I would bet you that some kind of economist could tell it better than me, but I would lay you a bet that you would put a huge hole in the United States economy in just the black market use of cash.
Well, just think of how many people wouldn't need to use coin changers anymore to go to the laundromat.
Yeah, but think about it this way: what drug dealer is going to take your phone? Is it, who's gonna have you walk in with your telephone and trade money there on the spot to your phone or a phone connected to you? You know what I mean? I mean, it would suddenly become pretty tricky stuff.
It's too easily manipulated. I don't try. I have to have something.
Yeah, so the bank could just take all your money at any time they wanted if you did it by credit cards, because that's basically all it is debt. That's how credit cards work.
Yeah, and we would be, conditioning our children to accept more and more of this, abstraction as far as what money means and, what rights do you have to it.
Yes, yeah. It's basically become like digitizing money. If you're not going the Bitcoin route, would basically be becoming a slave to the bank, and you'd be saying that I owe everything in my life to you, because without getting the credit from you and taking on this debt to your bank, I would not be able to eat and support my family. So therefore, you become a slave.
Kevin brought up a good point in the chat. That's a good way for the government to keep track of everything you buy, tax everything. Like you couldn't, you have to be careful what you bought, because they would be able to see right away what you're buying, whether it's legal or not. I don't think that's a good idea.
Pretty close to that right now. Right now in the United States, even here, I pay with my debit card when I go to the grocery store, and the store sells to different marketing companies everything that I bought. Bing,
well, exactly. And we're being conditioned to it now, and as time goes on, further generations will become even more conditioned to it, whether this is intentional or not. I mean, I'm not suggesting this is some kind of conspiracy, but that's just the way things are shaping up, and it's going to change the way that we look at money and what we deserve for the products as a reward for our labor.
Yeah, I was thinking about that just the other day. Basically, I kind of feel like their goal for their business is to kind of bring about slavery again. Where you get all the work and the profit, and you don't have to pay for anything. I mean, they're cheapskates. And so, how do you get people to show up and do work and not and still do the work but not get the money. And I think you got it there.
Well, I do that in a sense. I mean, I get direct deposit. I'm sure many people do.
Well, it'd be interesting to see what effect that might have on people thinking. The idea of being less connected to actual physical thing, whether that wouldn't make it easier to think more socially. You know what I mean? I mean, to think of a social program as, oh, well, what's that? You know, we're just putting more credits in your thingy or whatever. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it might have advantages.
Yeah, I mean, it could have its positive sides. But you know, I'm still a little hinky about not physically holding things I own. You know,
I think.
Well, as far as its advantages, there could be some, but again, when you just look at how people use these systems, someone will end up like accruing the power, like over the system, a limited amount of people. This happens over and over again. So, you know, this idea that humanity can flip a switch and all of a sudden become the super social creatures that we wish we were, like, I don't know, you know, we have to have checks and balances, and one of those is giving people things for their labor.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the problem now. It's like you go to work and you don't have anything to show for it at the end of the day, because, you know, you get your paycheck and then you turn around and you pay your bills, and then it's just like, well, okay. I mean, what was the point of going to work? You know?
Well, that's why we need the universal basic income, because then you could well, one, it would stimulate the economy because everyone would have money to spend at all times, but then it also would make it so that you could work whatever job you wanted, and companies would no longer have to provide a minimum wage. Like if everyone got if corporations were the only ones taxed and the billionaires were the only ones taxed, everyone in the United States could get a universal basic income that could provide for all of your basic needs for the month, like your food, your shelter, your water, and then minimal electricity. And then if you wanted more, companies could pay whatever they wanted, because if they need labor, they'll pay more, and if they don't, they'll pay less. And then the minimum wage would cease to exist. It wouldn't need to exist, and companies would be forced to pay fair wages if they wanted good labor.
What's the difference between universal basic income and social programs like, you know, Social Security, things of that nature? Because I just got introduced to universal based income, and it sounds interesting, but I'm to the relation.
They're having a test project in Finland, aren't they? It's as far as I understand, it's basically they strip you of all benefits and they give you instead some cash every month.
Well, not quite all benefits, like healthcare would usually still be nationalized in most universal basic income systems, because it just works better that way. It's more efficient when it's single payer or it's like a two-tier system.
That would be a big concern if they took that away as well, because you know, then it would be expensive, because majority of people, not a majority, but a lot of people would probably not sign up.
Yeah. And so that's what, so not all the social programs would go away, but like Social Security would disappear because everyone would have what they need to survive. And you'd only be getting more than that if you, like, let's say, had a disability, or if you were sick, you know, that would be part of your health insurance, by your government provided health insurance. But there's a lot of reasons why the universal basic income would work.
Well, I also heard that one of the pilot projects, they didn't have any real showing of a drop in productivity or anything, that people still wanted to do jobs. And you know, I think that one of the problems that you're going to find is that there are people that have a higher idea of what their labor is worth. You know, as far as I think that there are professional classes that think their labor is worth a whole lot more than, like, doctors. I think that there are specialists that think that their hands and everything are worth a whole lot more than, you know, the guy sweeping the floor. And so there would have to be some idea of where wages were going to go, because it would still allow for a sort of a class-based society where you would still have an incredibly rich upper class, because even with the only thing about the universal basic income, I like this idea, I really do, because I'm a firm believer in if you free people up and you allow them to, have health care, the basics of life, then they go out and they do the things they want to do, or they get the education they want to go do and go on. The people that love their job do their job better. It's just, I liked my job. I would still be a carpenter if I could be a carpenter. I would be a carpenter. I'm sure there are some rainy days and crap I would say, screw this. I don't want to do this anymore. But, then again, I liked my job, And
can't you?
The thing about universal income is that you would still get paid for work. It's just you would get this from the state additionally. And like in Finland, currently they are getting, in this test project, they're getting around $600. And that's not a lot to live on. I mean, you have to work on the side. So basically those who were already receiving money from social securities, they were better off with that system. So this system, at least how they're doing it in Finland, would only benefit those who are already working, because they would get more on top of what they're already getting.
Hey, would there be any barter system? Is there any bartering with the universal pay system here? Would there be like the cobbler would help fix your shoes if you would fix his plumbing?
Well, I mean, that could happen, yeah. Like, that can happen even in a capitalist society like the United States. Like, I know there's a guy I've been following on social media for a few years now named Rob Greenfield, who travels the world without money. He travels on a bicycle, and he has zero cash on him at any given time. Like, he's traveled South America and the United States and Central America and Spain without any money at all. And he's just done it by bartering and by being a good person and doing work for people. And he's proven that even in a society that's capitalist and has a currency like the United States, you can still go by you can still live like a no currency lifestyle and get away with it.
I just looked him up. He's doing pretty much everything in that fashion. He'll mow your lawn or whatever is necessary, or whatever his skills are, just to keep him going. And he just keeps moving.
I actually got to meet him just last night. He did a talk at a library in my town.
Is that the guy that started off with a paperclip and bought a house, trading it?
No, I don't think so.
That's a different guy. I know the one that you're talking about.
Okay, then, so we have people that are capable of doing things. But what about the people that can't? What about, because I always talk about this, I really believe, you grow up kind of this way. There are people that, and it kind of depends on what you do, that you have your A, B, C, D, and F people. I guess you're your alphas, your betas. But that could be in sports. He could be a great athlete, but he can't, figure out a basic algebra equation. And then so what I'm saying is you'd have tiers of people that can't do what other people can. They just don't have the capability, either physically or mentally, or maybe they're challenged. So what happens with those people?
Well, the universal basic income is a changeable idea, and it's not just you can do it different ways in different places. But the idea would be that to start out with, everyone would have a baseline income that would be the minimal amount. You could get what you need and no more than that. And then let's say that you do have a mental or a physical disability, or you can't work, kind of like if you were getting unemployment in the United States, if you broke your ankle on the job or something,
right.
and workers' comp, that kind of thing, they'd have that, but it would be government provided. and then if you can do work, then you would do work, and corporations do want people to work. Like, they need the work or else they wouldn't exist, and the people who are at the top wouldn't make any money. So they could then, like, let's say you want to start a business, right? And if you're living in America and you want to start a business, you have to go and you have to get down on your hands and knees and beg and kiss the shoes of a banker and ask, please, please, please give me a loan, even because I know you don't actually have money to loan me. It's all fake debt from the government, but I need this money so I can start a business in my hometown and employ my friends or my family or whatever. Whereas if you had a universal basic income, you could save up some of your money, maybe like skip lunch on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then after a couple months of doing that, you'd have enough money that you could, buy a storefront in your downtown area, and you could start a business, and everyone who's working on this universal basic income could work as a volunteer for a few months until you get on your feet and you actually start making money. And then, everyone like the longer they've been there, you can grandfather them in, paying them a living wage, and they could be able to afford to get things they want, that kind of thing.
Hey, did Gene Roddenberry, who created Star Trek, did he figure out the societal process and how people would live? I thought somebody kind of
you were sounding very Brave New World when you were talking about A's and B's. You had alphas and betas, and things were double plus good and things like that. I can't remember. It was if you put Brave New World and 1984 together, they sort of are good sort of bookends to what modern world is sort of like. I wonder, it would take a lot of societal and psychological changes for things like this to work, because or not necessarily work, because a universal basic income on its face would be great for poor people, period. I mean, start off right there. I mean, you're already helping a large section of people that never get any help. So that we're thinking about how wouldn't it be great to have you be able to get a few dollars more. There are people looking at what you're talking about for universal basic income and go, wow, if I could get that much money just straight out, I'd be and work on the side, I'd be hitting in high cotton. So it would be a great deal for them. So I like I say, the basic idea of it I support. I don't know the whole working out of how you work out all the benefits and things like that. Those are finer details, and how society is going to deal with it, and how people are going to view work, and how people are going to view hiring workers.
All right, guys. It's getting about to the 3-hour mark. We can continue on tomorrow night, but let's try to keep this after hours 3 hours long. That's a long time.
Yes.
I mean, we'll try. We're aiming to do this every night, or every weeknight. So.
All right, sweet.
It's just trying to get into federal job guarantee.
Well, we can continue tomorrow because this is a good topic too.
Yeah.
Just think about Star Trek. Go to sleep and think about Star Trek.
Yep.
Have a good night, everybody.
All right.
Peace.
Good night, everybody.
Bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Have a good evening.
Good night.
At all.
Night, everybody. Take care.
Good night.